We are on the second section on page AyinBase 6, and the Rebbe is taking great pains.
In the conference?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Baruch's asking, I'll just let him know.
Yeah, apologize. So excited to sit down and learn.
Welcome to IT. Welcome. At the tone, please record your name followed by the pound key.
Paltiel.
Thank you. You are participant number 2.
Alrighty. Sorry, Baruch.
Is he listening to your phone?
I'm sorry?
Is the conference?
He's looking for.
Oh.
Listen through Shlomo Yenis and his transmitting it, one way or the other. So the Rebbe took great pains to explain the principle that the oir is also qualifies to be called tzalmeinu, tzurah atzmis, because the principle that there is oir is something which is inherent in the atzmi. Except this is the gilui sheminhu atzmi, but it brings out the atzmi element. Okay, we're not going to go back there. It's very subtle in Yonim. Let's just continue. Let's get to the point where the Rebbe is leading to. Be'emes, in truth,
Which line is it?
in the second section.
Beginning.
Yeah. Be'emes, in truth, ha'oir, vehinay gam bevchinas gila min ha'atzmi. Because we said this before that etzem itself is guilty misgala. Etzem does not come to gila. What misgala is only an oir from the etzem. And we explained this oil can be called tzalmeinu because it's gila min ha'etzem. He says, in a deeper sense, in truth, it's not even b'bchinas gila min ha'etzem. It's not even in the inyan of a gili from the etzem. It is not a gili that comes from the etzem. And yet still, harei hu b'bchinas tzurah atzmis. And yet, it has the quality of being tzurah atzmis. This was the great challenge, so to speak. Say the oil is also tzurah atzmis, and the oil is tzurah atzmis means that's in kili from the etzem. And now he says be'emes, and this is what the implication of what be'emes is. Be'emes is always a very challenging concept, where there is going to be an extremely subtle element that qualifies the oil to be called tzurah atzmis, even though it's not a gilu mino etzem. Tzurah atzmis normally would mean a tzurah that is representative of the etzem. That's why tzurah atzmis. So we said before the oil is not representative of the etzem, but it's a gilu mino etzem. Now he says be'emes, in real truth, it's not even a gilu mino etzem. As we shall see, why this, what compels us to say that. In simple terms, just to introduce the concept, there is nothing in the etzem that compels it to have oil. Therefore, this gilui of oil is peripheral to the etzem. The etzem mitad atzmi, there's nothing compelling in the etzem that you should have oil. And yet, even though this is a peripheral element to the etzem, and yet it is correct to refer to the oil as tzurah atzmis. What does tzurah atzmis mean? Again, this is something which is in itself quite a challenging concept. Even though it's a tzurah means something which is for show, so to speak. A tzurah is something which is a presence. A presence in an external environment is tzurah. And yet, it's a tzurah atzmis. It's an essential, a personal tzurah. Even though personal has nothing to do with the external. Personal is internal to itself. It's with the etzem. And the oil is not a gilu mino etzem, and yet it has the quality of tzurah atzmis. And this is where we're going into. I said that's why the Rebbe introduced it by saying be'emes. This is not something that we can understand and we can describe in structured form. We can only understand it from the perspective of the principle of emes. And we shall see this as we go on. Vehinay, the Ayin in this is vehinay be'emes, for in truth, Ayin move on. It's not to be understood. Eich nimtzo inyan ha'oir vehagilu min ha'atzmos. How is the whole inyan, the whole principle, the whole concept of oir and gilui, revelation, comes forth min ha'atzmos, from the atzmos. Meyachar, since that, as we already explained, sheho atzmos einei begeder oir v'gilui klal, that the atzmos is not in the realm, within that realm, within that domain of oir v'gilui. Actually, you're talking klal, and it is so much v'gilui that lo yitochen klal, it's totally inappropriate inyan hel and v'gilui to refer to it in terms of gehel and v'gilui, kanal, as we said before.
What does the word yitochen mean by itself?
It's not fit.
Fit.
Kanal, as we said before, that he said who is Helam, and this who refers to atzmos. And then he says, no, it could not refer to atzmos. Because if you say Helam is appropriate only when in a realm where Gilu is possible. So this is Helam of the Gilu. But in that which is, there's no such thing as Gilu, there's no Helam. So, as we always try to give us a little bit of a handle, the means to to think about. Not to understand, but to think. And the Rambam says that the first principle is to know that there is a first being. How do we understand? How can one understand the principle of a first being? Motzurish. Is there a non-being prior to this motzu? Then it's not motzurish. Motzurish means rishon, the beginning of everything. And if it is a motzui, then motzui means, again, like we said before, like we say over here, to say helem, you have to have the ability. You have to have the ability to say gil. Otherwise, the word helem is not appropriate. So this is. We thought that it would be helpful to us to have the class undisturbed, but it's not. It doesn't work. Will this curtain help?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah?
If it's comfortable for you.
No, it doesn't matter. I mean, we have the air conditioning.
Yeah, I think that'll block out.
There's two curtains.
Block out Yitzhak, that's for sure.
There's another curtain.
Something's
There's another
There's
curtain.
another
Oh.
one.
There's three. There's another one also on your all the way on your right.
All right.
All right.
That's fine.
I can help with this.
In terms of describing and referring to atzmi. This is a principle that we only understood, as I said before, from a perspective of be'emes, meaning if we focus in, even in our own Sechel, our own nefesh, what is truth, rather than, as we said, true. Truth is that which you cannot perceive not being. You cannot imagine to not being. Anything that you can imagine it not being is not truth. It came into being. So if we begin to think on that level, Sechel is an emanation. Therefore, Sechel is not capable of understanding this kind of emes. This is why, when we talk in Sechel on those levels, we preempt it, we introduce it, we preamble it by saying we're talking be'emes. Be'emes means beyond Sechel. For Sechel is not emes per se. There is an element of a madriga of emes in Sechel. This is called chochmah. But who can talk about chochmah? Chochmah is nothing to talk about. But because we have chochmah, we can talk. We can say, focusing on the. Be focusing on the emes. Then that reveals to you, so to speak, an element that is beyond understanding. So be'emes. Atzmus eine begeder herren begil. Like I said before, what said Motzu Rishon? So we immediately say Motzu Rishon, he's before this, before that. No, before Rishon means he's not before anything. He's a Rishon. And therefore Atmos is not begeder. This means gather. It's not within the realm of talking Helam Gilui. He is in a state of Gilui, in a state of Helam. Inappropriate even to discuss it in those terms. Because to be Behelam and to be Begilui is identical. Again, just to open up our minds to sense this kind of inyanim. We always say that chochmah is like re'iyah, like sight. Re'iyah is something that comes automatically. You don't have to understand what you see. You don't have to make sense of it. I see because of this, because that. You see, because you see the reality itself. Nevertheless, there is a beginning to the sight, because you can close your eyes and not see. So there's an Indian, there is a hell of a beginning. You could see and not see. And when you see, you say, oh, I see. But then if we take this a little step above that, and we speak not in terms of what I see, but in terms of where I am. Like we say, on that lower level, you could see what's going in this room. Yes, and you can see everything. But then you enter the room itself. What is your relationship to the room at that point? Do you see it? Is there any process by which you're in the room?
By which you what?
You are in the room. I put it even in simpler terms. Sight is instantaneous. Nevertheless, it's instantaneous, but there is an element of time. It's instantaneous. Instant is also an element of time. A quicken. How long does it take to be inside the room? Is that instantaneous?
Yeah, that's instantaneous.
It's not instantaneous. Instantaneous means there is an element of time. This is not within time at all. Being inside is being inside. This is what's called. This is where you were requested to think in terms of emes. What's the reality? This is beyond the process of Sechel and becoming aware. Okay. So, this is just not be gathered Helen. It's not in that realm.
What was the point to bring the comparison between seeing it and being there? What does that bring out in terms of this idea of Helen being?
In terms of seeing, you say, takes no time to see. It's instantaneous. Compared to hearing, compared to understanding, takes no time. But, listen, but it is a suitable thing to say that it's instantaneous. But being, the word instantaneous is not applicable.
Mm-hmm. Well, that again, I don't know how does that fit back into the discussion.
So this is the pshat. It is not in the gather. In the gather, Therefore, we have the question: since Ein Begeder Yam Gilui, Eich Nimtzu Mimenu Inyan Ho'er V'Gilui. How then is the whole principle of Eir V'Gilui come forth from? Mimenu, and it comes from him. Okay. That is the question. Eich nimtzu mimenu inyan ho'er v'Gilui. The whole principle of Ho'er V'Gilui. Ukmoi. This is comparable. No. You have to turn it the other way. The other way, Yitzchak.
That was the other way.
All the way.
That's what I was doing. The other way. Now you're making it worse.
Whereas before it gets better.
Give him a minute.
It comes worse before you make it better. Oh, that's it. Good. Yeah. You have light without direct.
Yeah.
Tzimtzum. Okay, we can sort of say preempt a little bit, but we're not, as long as we get a handle. Ukmai, as for example, he's explaining why this is such what is it such a big question, how did the from Oyer V'Gilui come from? Kmoi, im neymar, his havas hamtzius min ho'atzmus. Just as when you say that mitzius comes to be from atzmus. Harei zeh dover nifle me'oit. That statement would be extremely nifle. Nifle means wondrous, beyond comprehension, beyond means of relating to it. Eich is have mitzius dover mino atzmus she'ene b'yarech klal. How can mitzius dover of any kind of a presence come to be from atzmus, which is eine b'yarech klal, which is not in that realm at all? K'moi kein yifle, in a similar manner. Yifle, it is wondrous, it's a bit baffling. His havas ho'oy min ho'atzmus. How oyer comes from atzmus. Okay, what is the Rebbe saying? Again, we have to start thinking, so to speak, on the level of be'emes. The Rebbe is saying that if we say his havas hamitzius from atzmus is a dover pella, then we recognize right away that it's a dover pella. But I'm saying something different. I'm saying that his havas ho'oy min ho'atzmus is a dover pella. That is not clear directly that this is dover pella. Hamitzius, yes, his havas hamitzius from atzmus, but oir min atzmus, you would not immediately say, oh, that's a dover pella. Why? Because oir is not a mitzius either. Oir is not a tangible thing. Why is habas ha'oir min atzmus a dover pella? The Rebbe says it's in the same realm, in the same category. If you say his havas hamitzius from atzmus, is dover pella. Exactly the same way, if you really understand the principle of oil relative to atzmus, you would say the same thing. How is havas ha'oil min atzmus is equally dover pella.
I'm just curious, so the Abishur is niflay, so it's a pella. Creation is a wonderful thing, wondrous thing.
No, you're missing the point over here. Please. I'm not asking the question how the Abishur did it. Is it a pella that there is oil from atzmus?
Yes, so there is.
Huh?
Okay, so it is. I mean,
Wait a second, do you understand that's a pella? That's the point. Do you understand that this is a pella? Hello?
I'm afraid to answer yes.
These are things so removed that it's hard to know what's Pella.
This is why the Rebbe goes in that step and says that you should know that the question of how the oil comes from the atzmos is as much pella as to saying how Metzias come from atzmos.
That's a bigger pella? Okay, that's bigger.
He said as much.
Obvious.
He said as much about that.
But if you're comparing it to something, that means it's bigger.
As much. He didn't say as much, that's all.
All right, gentlemen, let's step back a bit. In a much lower, much more tangible level. But nevertheless, it's a means to relate to these concepts. I want this cup to be over here. Follow this. I want this cup to be here, and the cup senses my want, and he moves over there. Doverpel? Correct or not correct? Doverpel. Not the miracle. How does a cup sense my want? My want is the cup cannot even sense that thing. And so Ruchni is like a relative to the cup. Now let's take that in what the Rebbe gives us the secondary level. I want this cup to be here. And my hand, the koyach in my hand, the koyach ha-nefesh, activates my hand to move the cup over here. Is that a pella?
Yes.
It's a pella.
A grace of Pella. It's
But it's not as obvious a pella as when the cup moves because of my want. Do I have you with me now?
Yeah.
not us.
So the Rebbe wants to explain that that the fact that the cup moves the cup moves because I want. It comes from Milo. It is not much different as when you're activating the koyach hayad to move. It's equally a pella. If you understand, and this is in the reverse order here. If you understand that his havas ha-mitzius from atzmos is a dover shapella, his havas ha-oir is a dover shapella. To give it in the same vein, so we won't lose it. Now follow this. The fact that I want this cup to be over here is a dover shapella. Forget about the cup moving. The fact that I want the cup to be here, how is the koyach ha-nefesh, the want, relate to the cup? But it's also dover shapella. This, clearly, I would have to kind of elaborate a little bit. If the cup is bothering me, and therefore I'm moving it away, so we are saying, oh, it's bothering me, that's why I want to move it away. It's not a want. I don't want it to be over there. I want it not to bother me. This is the whole phenomenon of a wish or will in the world is it's all to eliminate any kind of disturbance, any kind of negativity. This is why things work in the physical world. But if I say no, this cup belongs over here. That is a davar shel pele. That the nefesh should relate, so to speak, in its ruchnistic state of how things and how the things look begashmis. This is davar shel pele. This is the oyer hanefesh. So what we are saying is that the oyer hanefesh should say, this cup belongs over here. I want the cup to be here. Is no greater, is no less of a pele than the nefesh actually activating the body and get it to move. How can a want, a ruchnistic thing, activate a physical body and make it move? So this is mamash a pele. This is what the Rebbe is saying. Let's go back to see that the Rebbe is saying this, in fact. Okay? At the end of the parenthesis on the fourth line. How does Eir V'Gilui come forth from him if he is not in that gather? Again, what's that gather? He's not in that realm at all. Eir V'Gilui. Ukmoi. Just as Im Noimar, if we should say, his ha was hametzius min atzmus, arreiz dover pele, dover nifla meyoit. If we say that his ha was hametzius from atzmus, this is a dover nifla meyoit. It's a really a distant and a wondrous thing. Eich his ha metzius dover ma min atzmus. How can his metzius dover, a presence of a dover ma, of a definitive presence, come from atzma she'eni b'yerech klal, which is not b'yerech klal at all in that realm. In our moshel, this is the actual activation, the physical activation of the hand to move the cup. It's a davar shel pele. It really is a davar shel pele. K'moi kein yifle. But likewise, in the same vein, it is a pele. His habus ho'oy min atzmus. His habus ho'oy min atzmus. The oil comes from atzmus. In terms of our moshel, is the want that the cup should be there. Is an equal status of a pele. How does a nefesh relate to Gashmis, even at just the want? That means the oil. All right, so we got the point here. The lagabe ho'atzmus, because lagabe ho'atzmus, relative to atzmus, and from the perspective of atzmus, shove is absolutely equal. Bechinas ho'oir, lebechinas ha'metzius, the aspect of oil to the aspect of metzius. Oil in our concept is oil like a person lives in a home and his presence is felt everywhere because everything is in the right place, everything has a certain design and a certain human quality to it. This is oil. This is a metzius just like the actual moving of the furniture around or building the furniture. You recall we spoke about the koyach ha'halicha, the koyach of movement, going from place to place. And we said that from the nefesh perspective, the whole principle of walking from place to place doesn't exist. Because the nefesh does not relate to time and space. It is wherever it is, it is wherever he wants to be. Like the Rambam says, "Mokum shelitzin shalom shamhu." The whole phenomenon of relating to time and space and coming down and say, yes, I'm over there, but in order to be there, I have to walk. That is, and how can nefesh relate to the principle of walking? So the truth is, the nefesh does not. But this is a much lower level. It comes through the Sechel and Midas until it actually relates to time and space. But beside the nefesh itself, the nefesh carries the person, like we say in halacha, "Hachai noisei atzmi." Everybody heard this. We mentioned recently, "Hachai noisei atzmi." What does it mean? Hachai does not need to be transported from place to place. He is where he wants to be. The chayus is not limited in time and space. And this is so real that it translates in halacha, that if you carry a chay, you're not even on carrying on Shabbos. Because you did not accomplish anything. The malacha is when you're coming, you transport from one rishus to the other. A chay transports himself. Just as you're allowed to walk from rishus hayochid to rishus harabim. Why you're allowed to walk from rishus hayochid to rishus harabim? You're carrying yourself. It's not called carrying. Why? What's not called carrying?
Presence.
Well, no, you can answer, but think before you answer. Why is it not called carrying? Because before he even moves, he's already there. He's not bound to be here or there. A Dover Chai is where he wants to be. And he is wherever he is able to do, that's where he is. That's why you have to walk from Rishus Yochel to Rishus Harabim. On the other hand, it's an interesting, once we're talking about an interesting union, that there is a limit to that too. And there's a limit, the Tchum Shabbos, how much you can walk. Because that becomes already something beyond your realm. Doesn't go into the category of carrying, but Tchum Shabbos is a limit how much you are allowed to walk outside of the city.
If he's all over, why does he have a limit?
Okay, so I really got myself into trouble over here. Because the inner being all over, being we're talking about the Mishoma in the goof, therefore you sense the Mishoma in the goof through your koichas hanefesh, through the Sechel. The extent to which the Sechel can extend, that's the extent to which you have it. Like we said before, chochmah is like instantaneous, but there's an limit of time. Therefore there's a limit. And that's our nefesh like there is no limit. There is no limit. But mitzat koichas hanefesh, this is what the human being is. He lives at the koichas level, the chochmah level. Then there is a limit. But the limit is way beyond the immediate shoes. It is something which is beyond reach, so to speak. So there is that limit. Okay. Okay. So it took us this effort here to understand the question to some extent. To what extent we extend the question, I don't know. But to understand that in order to understand this question, you need really to work. That we know. It's a question that is entirely, so to speak, in the intelligence. Does not exist on the periphery. On the Gashmistic level, it's not a question. like we say, how can a person want that this should be over there? Is that a question? If you ask a question to a psychologist, says you're going to the hospital right away. Something's not right with you. But Chassidus says, no. If you don't have that sense, then you're missing something. Okay. Okay. So in order to explain this, the Rebbe goes into Mashal. V'yesh leimar. Explanation can be presented the following way. The question again, how is Oir nimtzo min ha'atzmos? Where Oir is actually a gil. How is Oir nimtzo min ha'atzmos? But we know that it has to be nimtzo min ha'atzmos because the first principle of all knowledge, of all chochmah, is that there is a first being. And there is nothing that comes other than the first being. So how is it coming out of atzmos? Vehinay ono meitzim dugmois beifon kozeh. For in fact, we find dugmois similarities in like manner. Moi hanefesh be'etzem mahus. As for example, the nefesh be'etzem mahusoi, in the very essence of its presence. What is a nefesh? Harei einoi bivchinas chayus lahachayus. The nefesh be'etzem mahusoi is not bivchinas, does not qualify, does not have that element to be identified as chayus lahachayus. Chayus, that gives life, that makes life. Umushlo hu legamri minyan hachayus. The nefesh be'etzem mahusoi is totally devoid from the principle of chayus. Chayus. Okay, this is going to be. We will take it slowly, and we'll get to the point. Like we spoke before, just a moment, that in a home there is a presence of the person recognizable. Because everything points to the fact that there's a human being here. The way everything's set up, even the cleanliness itself, the order and everything points to the person. And he said the clock on the wall is a clear attestation to a human presence. It's a human quality. Everything is present. Okay, here is the question: that this presence enliven this object? Does the clock come to life? No. It comes from the human being. Does the clock then become alive? Is that the clock sense its significance on this wall? These are rhetorical questions, really. Okay, so we understand. It doesn't. Even though, in fact, there is a human element emanating there. Right? We understand that. But this human element, this emanation, is lemailo, is above being mislavish in the object to give it life. It is something which is due to the human presence itself. There's nothing that's emanating, making things live. It says, for example, that a person looking at things, by his looking at things and thinking the proper thoughts, he is mevare in that thing. He brings kedusha to that thing. He's actually mevare that thing. When a person, the Rebbe says, you walk in the street and you're saying Advar Torah, even thinking Advar Torah, you're mevare the street. This birur is a very real birur. To the extent that, as a result of this birur, it will, thinking negative thoughts in that street will be more difficult. Will not be that common. Because it's misbari. It doesn't have that coarseness anymore, that gashmi, that lowness of the world. It has a spiritual value, a spiritual quality. But it does not bring life into the street. What's the difference? Life is a much lower level, something that relates to the Gashmi itself. This is something on a much higher level. This is in the Ruchni element itself, in the atzmi nefesh. And therefore, it has its effect, but its effect is on a Ruchni level. So the union that the nefesh is mislabish in the goof and gives life to the physical goof. This is the Dov Shalpel. This is not, and the Etzma Nefesh is mushlal, is completely above. The Etzma Nefesh is completely above this.
In other words, that they go.
What is in fact the Nefesh telling the goof? Nefesh brings life to the goof. What is the message that the Nefesh brings to the goof and the goof comes to life? The Nefesh is telling the goof, I don't know if this is a manner of speech. The Nefesh is telling the goof you should know that there are things which is completely above Gashmis. And you are totally insensitive to it. I'm giving you an element of life. And with this life, you can become sensitive to those things that are completely remote from you. In fact, the nefesh is not intended to give life to the group. The nefesh is intended to give nefesh to the group. To give godliness to the group. But you are totally beyond being sensitive to godliness. So I'm giving you life at a lower level. You should become sensitive to what you're told. And because of these sensitivities, then with Sechel, with the proper thought, perhaps you'll get to relate to godliness. But nefesh principally is godliness, not life. So therefore, nefesh be'etzem is above ein behinay chayes lahachlis umushlo legamri. Okay, he is not behinay chayes lahachlis. Let's find the words over here. Umushlo legamri, hu legamri, and is totally devoid meyin hachayes, of the whole principle of chayes. The nefesh is completely above the whole of chayes. Kiyodua, as is known, the etzem hanefesh, that the essence of the etzem hanefesh, lemailo gam mibchinas yechida shebenefesh, is higher than even the nifli yechida shebenefesh. Yechida means the sensitivity that the nefesh has on Holocaust. Nefesh is above that, even yechida, because it's an etzem aliki itself. It's like the motivation. Motivation is not consistent in a sensitivity. It's a fundamental reality, a fundamental truth.
Rabbi Paltiel?
Yes, sir, Baruch. Yes, sir, Baruch, you should take a look at the class over here. Everybody is now in Atzila someplace. I don't know.
Everybody is what?
Go ahead.
Atzilus? So,
Why?
we sometimes
The Ayin
say,
got Atzilus. I don't know if they got Atzilus. The Ayin got Atzilus.
we sometimes say, just like the
Make it
sun.
louder.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Just like we say that the sun is etzem behiri, we say that the neshama is etzem chai be'etzem, or etzem chai, right? We use this expression.
Yeah, Chaim
Now
Be'etzem.
we're saying, but now we're saying actually that doesn't actually give us a definition of neshama at all.
Right. And the principle of the shemesh is being behiri is not giving us a definition of shemesh either.
So then what does it mean to say etzem behiri or etzem chai? Chai be'etzem.
Chai be'etzem means that actually it is higher than the union of chayas, and this is higher than the union of light. And it's a godly phenomenon of light and chayas. Chai be'etzem means that just like the sun, behiri, at the minute it appears, the entire environment becomes lit up, not because it brings light, but because it brings itself. The nefesh also, the minute it touches the goof comes to life. That's my chai be'etzem. But really, the nefesh, its inyan is not the inyan chayas at all. The nefesh is the godly presence.
Okay, thank you.
I want to give us a little bit of a handle, so that we understand what we're saying. We're not just speaking words. In our experience, just in our daily experience, life has a very specific effect. Besides being sensitive and understanding so forth, but something alive cannot be damaged the same way as you damage something that's lifeless. Like we speak all the time, you have a cut in your finger. Cut in your finger is, the finger, this is the lifeless part that gets cut, but the life element does not get damaged. And so much so that it forces the finger to heal. In other words, that refers to the reality of this finger. The finger that we look at is very vulnerable to damage, which means it's not a real thing. It's precarious. What is the real thing in the finger? The chayes that's in it. The fact that it's really not precarious at all, it's not damageable. That's reality. That's a godly reality. Chayes is representative on a Gashmic level, representative of that quality. It's an interesting phenomenon. Mamish, a phenomenon that's recognized in the medical field. A person is not well, God forbid. And sometimes the not wellness is very serious. When the medical field is what at a loss, how to bring it back, how to cure it. A profound, a fundamental change in the spirit of the person can have a monumental change, effect on the whole thing. Brings back the complete health of the person. What does that tell you? That the chayus is only a manifestation, only a superficial, an external manifestation of what the real nefesh is. The real health is not from the chayus, the real health is from the nefesh. And a little inspiration, a lot of a clear inspiration, a clear element, bringing there, so to speak, an essential element of life, of nefesh, can cure and lift a person completely out of his weakness. Amazing thing. The medical field is screaming, no, we have this medicine and this molecule, this. It defies this whole theory, totally. To the extent they say psychology, the person in his brain has got this chemical and that chemical. This is what depression is about, and this is what joy is about.
I like this chemical.
We defy it completely. By the final rise, the whole thing is proven wrong. Yeah, it can work temporarily, but that's not, it doesn't. Clearly, it doesn't identify the reality. This is what we say. The nefesh, chayas is what makes the guvla. The nefesh is not chayas at all. Nefesh is a godly reality, as we shall see in Mitzvah Shem. Have a great day. You have to call it down now.
Shmuel said he likes that next.
Huh?
Shmuel said he likes that next.
Rabbi Paltiel.
Yeah.